Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Semi-Pro. I am Dalton Barrett, and in the studio with me are my good friends Daniel Savage, Joshua Clements, and Bobbin Bobberton, and we watched After Earth.
No, we didn't.
Man, I wish we just talked about the political and economic state of the world right now.
Come on!
It was so great to see the praying mantis in this. Some giant praying mantis.
All right. The bit with talking over the music doesn't work if everyone does it. It just doesn't work.
I think that enhances it.
Then it's not intro music anymore. It's just us all talking.
All right, everyone needs to shut up.
It's over now. It's too late. Now we have to talk or there's nothing but silence.
Yeah, I think that would be more enjoyable.
After Earth. We went After
that
Earth.
was a movie. We watched a movie.
Before.
Almost.
Full clarification, we normally watch these movies and then the next morning talk about them. But we just finished it and we decided to go ahead and record it now. And so
we're not tired this time. We're angry, but we're not tired.
Right.
And we've had no time to marinate on this movie.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. If I can give my initial thoughts at the moment, there's not much to marinate on.
Right.
I don't feel a certain way about this movie.
Bobbin also doesn't have much to marinate on because he was playing Postal 2 the whole time.
I was not. I was just open, man.
I just spent the whole
right.
movie trying to figure out where the cave people were.
I was just waiting for the praying mantis to show up, and then when he finally did, best scene in the movie.
What is this thing about a
scene.
praying mantis?
I was just waiting for.
You saw the movie. You saw the giant praying mantis in the movie.
What's the bit? What's the bit?
It's not a bit. It was in the movie. We just watched this movie.
Bobbin, the bit is Daniel, when we talked about Attack of the Clones, talked about the giant praying mantis from Attack of the Clones.
Because I didn't watch Attack of the Clones for that discussion, but that was the first one I was there for, and the only thing I knew about the movie was the giant praying mantis. So that's all I talked about.
And
then strangely enough, there was an actual giant praying mantis in this movie that we just watched.
You mean a giant enemy crab?
No, it was a giant praying mantis, and no one can disprove that because no one has seen this movie.
Okay, talking of the movie, Bobbin's right. There's not much to talk about. You can talk about the political and economic state of the world.
Stop.
But you can't talk about this movie too much.
I hate it here. I hate this thing that we do.
We finished this movie less than 30 minutes ago, and I already forgot everything that happens.
Don't. We are 1 week out from completing what is undoubtedly the worst part of any of the things that we've got planned for the next 3 years.
All right, shortest episode of the podcast. Here we go. So,
speed run.
so we open with a little narration. I think from Jaden Smith. It is from Jaden Smith.
It was because he was doing the horrible accent and also being a bad actor.
Yeah, so he was doing this accent that apparently him and Will Smith had dialect coaching to figure out, sort of like Black Panther, where they were like, okay, we're going to create an original accent for this, but not as good as the Wakandan accent.
Right, and
Black Panther
didn't make sense at all, right?
Black Panther did it because they were world building a whole thing. They drop an exposition dump at the start of the movie to world build, and then they very quickly move on from that. Nothing about the world that they build at the start of this movie matters to the rest of the movie whatsoever.
Well, no, because this movie doesn't take place on that world.
Right, exactly. It takes place on Earth.
No, not on Earth. It takes place on Earth, after. Earth.
2013. So we realized that 1,000 years in the past of this movie's present, which I guess would be our current present. So 1,000 years from now, humans have to leave Earth, or now humans have to leave Earth because of global warming, I guess. And so they all leave Earth because the Earth is killing them. And they go to a planet called Nurth, which in the movie is called Nova Prime. And they go there, and it's been 1,000 years since they've been there. But on this planet are these bug aliens, these giant
they're
Cloverfield monsters.
Right, that too.
And those things they're blind, but they smell fear. And Will Smith is the fearless. He has no fear, and so he can defeat them easily, and he does, I guess. And so he becomes like this huge decorated war hero and leads the army. And that's what happens in the opening exposition dump of this movie. Where it gets a little confusing is if they've been on this planet for 1,000 years, were they just like dying every day before Will Smith came along?
Right. They don't. Well, like let's say they don't. The whole point of this is that it's moot because the movie opens, it shows the predicament that they are in, then flashes back to something that matters. Like it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter to the rest of them.
Did it say that Will Smith was the first one to go ghost?
No, I don't think it said it was the first one. He just like the best one.
Right.
He's like superstar of this planet.
Right. He wasn't the first one. They were doing it, but they just weren't doing it effectively, I guess. And he was the first one who was like ghost all the time.
Because he's autistic.
Right.
Well,
so all right, I'm trying. I'm working.
I'm trying. I'm really trying, man.
I'm really tweaked. So after Earth 2013, after this, we cut to Jaden Smith, whose name in this movie is Kati,
Kati, I think.
No,
Karate Kid.
Kite.
Hold on,
Katie.
I've got IMDb pulled up.
I think it's Kati.
It's like it's like
Or no,
Kitai.
Kitai.
It's Kitai. Yeah.
Kitai.
I think it's
so-
Kite Man.
Kitai Raige, son of Cypher Raige, being Will Smith's character. We're not going to mention their names anymore.
They are Will Smith and Young Smith.
Right.
He is running, and he's good at running, and he outruns everybody else in his military training.
Right, because he actually runs while everyone else jogs.
Correct. But he still doesn't pass, and he will not be able to military. He's not allowed.
Because he is a child and everyone else is a fully grown adult.
They're all at least in their late 20s.
Right. And because of that, his dad comes home for the weekend or whatever. And
His dad comes home from being ghost.
And his dad is disappointed in him, but also excited that he didn't make it because he doesn't want to lose his son. And so I'm going to have to pass this off to one of you guys in a minute. So Will Smith talks to his wife and is like, hey, I think I want to retire because I want to spend more time with my family. And she's like, well, your son wants to spend time with you in the military. Take him with you on your next mission. And so Will Smith decides to do so. Not a great move on his part. Really a stupid move, actually. And you would think very illegal. Like here in the U.S., if somebody was going on tour to Iran, like
and then
Will
they come
Smith
home for a
ran,
week, and then they come back with their like 10-year-old son. And yeah, I enlisted him over the weekend. It was great. It was to help out.
Like that's just
he's the ghost. He can do whatever.
yeah.
he
I guess
wants.
he is like the most important person to ever exist in this universe. So
Which
he
is
can.
weird because they don't treat him like such. Because he like warned them about the asteroid storm or whatever, and then they were just like, "Oh, shut up, man!
You don't know anything. Who are you? What are you, ghost or something?"
No, but you don't understand that the one guy with the one leg stands up and salutes him.
Oh, and the 4 or 5 guys that were bullying Jaden Smith, stood up and saluted him.
Right.
Right.
And
All right,
then,
take it
so-
over.
so-
It's your turn, Josh.
They're on the ship and they're flying through the stars, and they have this like kind of neat effect that is also kind of bad looking.
It's just the hyper speed effect from Star Wars,
Right, but from
slightly
outside.
squigglier.
It's different. It more like circles the ship, or it looks like the one from Star Trek more so, where it's like a tunnel that the ship goes through.
This
cool.
movie is as good. This movie is as good as Star Trek.
Some of it.
I'd say better.
And
By that I
so
mean some of Star Trek, not some of this movie.
they like fly towards an asteroid field, and Will Smith's like, "I told you so," and then they get hit by the asteroids and eventually crash land on After Earth 2013, and they so they crash land, and Will Smith and his son are the only two survivors. The entire time, Will Smith
Maybe,
and his
or
son.
maybe there were other
Well,
people that
there
survived.
may be a couple of other people who survive. We see later that the alien, they were transporting an alien. I don't. Did they ever give a reason why?
Yeah,
they were
no,
transporting it?
they said it was for like ghost training off world to like train people to be fearless of these
ghosts.
things.
Yeah.
Okay. So
To
yeah,
train them to go ghost Danny Phantom.
I don't remember
Yeah.
that, but I believe you. It sounds legitimate.
Yeah, the one guy with the weird accent, but not the weird accent that was made up for this
like
movie.
the half Scottish accent.
It sounded like he was either an Eastern European man doing or trying to do an American accent, or
an
an
American
Eastern
man trying to do
European
it.
man. Yeah, I don't know. It was a lot was going on. I just kind of got sensory overload for most of the movie.
And then so they crash land, and the alien escapes and maybe kills two people, or at least impales them on a tree. But they may have been dead before that.
I don't
But,
think
they were
they.
dead
I don't
before
think
that,
with
that
the
wouldn't
rules
make
that.
sense, 'cause
Yeah, with the rules that
that
they've
would-
given for these aliens, that wouldn't make sense because they're blind and they only smell fear.
Right, yeah. They smell the pheromones that humans give off when they are scared.
So maybe there's some pheromones around their dead bodies. I don't know how death works.
Right,
I don't know
they
how
can also smell
pheromones
death.
work.
I don't even know what a pheromone is.
I don't know how these aliens work.
I know
Oh,
I'm going feral
never
So
Oh,
mode.
yeah,
yeah.
so Jaden Smith and his dad are the only survivors, and neither of them have any charisma or chemistry or seem to care about anything. Which,
Right. If I didn't know that they were in fact biologically related in real life, I would not
guess.
believe
No.
it.
No. Will Smith just kind of seems annoyed the whole movie, and Jaden Smith cannot act to save his life.
You know, they if I can interject, they really
can't.
like okay, Daniel. Okay, Daniel.
As discussion.
I be when we watch these movies, I look stuff up about them and like look at all the posters and stuff like that. For all the promotional material, Will Smith is slapped on all of these posters and stuff like that. But he's like not. He doesn't do anything in this movie.
No, not even a little bit.
That's
Right,
that's
because
not
like
a
I
lot of
said,
movies.
he is a real actor. They can't just put Jaden Smith's face on these. No one
no,
knows
it's
who
just-
that is.
They really
No,
just robbed people of a Will Smith movie.
Bobbin, you know that this is a pretty common thing that they do. Like, Bruce Willis hasn't actually starred in any of the movies he filmed over the last 5 years, right? Like, he's
No, he
not
did.
been part of them. He's
He
in
did.
them for maybe 5 minutes, and then he disappears.
I was there.
That's the tactic that these movies use. I'm not going to hold
Well,
that against this
and-
movie
and
because I
also-
can't blame.
This movie was. Will Smith made this movie.
Right,
Like,
he did. Like,
this-
he
this is-
produced and wrote it and basically directed it.
Yes,
He
and
made this movie so that his son could star in it.
correct.
Yeah.
This is nepotism. The movie.
And he almost definitely pushed it as like, okay, I'll be in this movie so you'll get some money, but it's really for my son so that he can
Right,
have his
like,
breakout role. Like that was the
Oh, man,
idea.
that worked out great.
Right. That was the idea behind this movie. It just doesn't work because Jaden Smith is not a good actor, and Will Smith, who kind of behind the scenes directed a lot of this, he's not credited as the director. That's Shyamalan, but apparently he wrote the script. He was a producer on the movie, and according to some IMDb trivia, he basically backseat directed the whole thing.
And he is not a good director.
Correct. He couldn't direct his son, and the accent thing, stupid. And I'm assuming that's
Right.
Will Smith's idea. Like this
Right.
this is a lot of. There's a lot of things in this movie that don't work.
Right. The only this is meant to be part of Shyamalan's sweep, and the only real interjection that Shyamalan had was he was basically just cinematographer.
Yeah,
Like,
he had a cameo, didn't he?
Did he have a cameo?
Yeah, I think he did at the beginning.
I might have missed. I was too focused on whatever the bad actors are doing.
Something in this
Right.
film that did work were the wonderful costumes designed by Amy Westcott and created by Ironhead Studios. The life suit, that Jaden Smith wears in the film is very, very cool.
The cool blade thing, big fan.
was gonna-
Cool, yeah.
I was gonna say, were they Ironhead? Because they did look
Yeah.
very good. They reminded me a lot of like what was it, the Black Panther concept art suits. And
Yeah, for me, I looked at it and it reminded me of Electro from TASM 2, with the foam latex accents overlaying the screen print. It's very cool, very neat costume.
Nerd.
All right, man.
That's how you know what Bobbin knows what he's talking about. Is when he starts talking about like foam latex, and we were just like, Colin,
Yeah, I like it. Looked cool.
All
It looked
right,
like Dune costume, and also
I like
Ender's
Dune
Game.
costume.
I like Dune. I've seen Dune.
I like Dune costume.
I do like that
Dune
it changes
with
colors.
Yeah,
Right,
That
a big
was
fan of
very cool.
I wasn't sure as to what made it change color.
No, I'm not either. From a
I don't think
story
any of us
standpoint,
were.
that was horrible. But
Yeah,
I'm not
it
sure
looks-
Shyamalan doesn't know either.
Cool. Right.
No, and like Shyamalan does not know, but
Will Smith might know, but he's not telling anyone.
the whole the whole sort of MacGuffin of the story is that
I think you mean McLovin.
Will Smith is gravely injured and he's broken his leg, and he's like, I can't move. You're going to need to hunt for us.
have we
you need to-
established that we've crash landed on Earth? Did we
Yes,
get to that?
they-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On
he talks about
the
people
before-
dying and maybe not dying.
Yeah.
They landed on Earth. It's just them two. He's broken his leg and he can't move, so he tells young Smith to be like, "Hey, I need you to get the beacon and then send up like a help sign so that people can find us."
And Jaden Smith, as well as talking about the political and economic state of the world right now, is also reading Moby Dick.
Oh yes, we do have to establish the Moby Dick arc of the story.
They make a really big deal out
that
of
is
Moby
the
Dick.
driving force of this movie is Moby Dick by
right.
fucking Sherman.
So
whatever,
what
Hulk,
happens here
Sherman,
is
whatever.
they're on the ship to go to
Mr.
pre-Earth.
Peabody and Sherman.
And Jaden Smith says to Will Smith, "I've been reading Moby Dick," and really nothing else. And then Will Smith is like, "Cool."
Okay.
And
Damn.
then there's like
Oh, damn.
sedan moment. So and then they flash back and spoilers. You don't care, but
No
the
one is gonna
sister,
watch
the dead sister, played by Zoe Kravitz, also liked Moby Dick. So I guess that's
She said she got a real book from a museum.
right.
Well,
because it's in the
Place in
future.
The Moby
yes.
Dick thing was about whaling and how we treat
Right.
the environment poorly, and that's why Earth revolted. Because the last scene of this
But
movie,
the movie had nothing to do with that, Dalton. This
well,
is a
no. But
sci-fi
they
movie.
mention Will Smith mentions that in a flashback to Zoe Kravitz. She's like, "Did we really kill whales?" And he's like, "Yes, we did.
She's
Yeah,
like,
the
they-
oil.
He said, no, we did.
We did this 1,000 years ago. We were whaling. More than that, 1,500 years ago, we were whaling, and we killed all the whales. Because the last scene of the movie is like a bunch of whales together,
Right.
and it's stupid.
I wish we had seen one of those whales because they looked like weird in Fallout and mutated.
Right. They
I think
the
that's
whole
just
movie,
what whales look like.
But for what the movie was,
They
it
don't
did
got
not.
weird bumps on their back like that, do they?
The
Joshua,
movie,
continue, please.
the movie did not utilize its premise well enough, and we'll get into that.
Right,
But
not at
the driving force is just young Smith needs to make it across the planet to get to the thing in time, but he needs to keep a track on his oxygen, and he needs to keep track of not dying at night because at night the Earth freezes unless he gets to certain safe spots. Those are the two like big things that they make a point out of. So
And
he
the
walks out-
monsters.
right, and there's monsters. So he walks out and immediately gets attacked by apes. Like
Well,
within,
not attacked. The apes just come up, and then his dad is telling him, "Hey, relax, don't freak out, or they'll
Right. Oh,
start
and his
chasing you and
dad-
attack you."
His dad has an entire camera crew following him, but
Yeah.
according to him, it's only on his backpack. It's a camera on his backpack that he says, "Oh, I'll be able to see behind you, so I can look out. I can watch your six." And then immediately after, the first time it's in use, it stares out like it's like a third-person view of him.
Yeah, it's like a POV as well as a third-person view, as well as sometimes just filming
Just-
his face.
Sometimes it's just off in the forest, looking out at
Well,
whatever.
so
he
they
wants.
say.
I think there were some. Sorry to cut you off,
It's
but
okay.
there were like a bunch of different drones flying around the planet that he
That's
launched.
not
he
where.
sent
That's not
them-
the camera.
Right.
Because Will
But
Smith
that
tells us
should
what the
have been
camera
the-
is.
It should have been the camera, yeah.
The camera is on his backpack. We see it later in the movie, and Will Smith says that when he gives Baby Smith the backpack. But then there are scenes where he's blatantly wearing the backpack, and it's a shot of his face. Although,
Right, like
actually, now, hold on. I'm looking at a picture. Hold on. I'm looking. It's the splash page for this episode of the podcast on YouTube. And I'm pretty sure there's a camera on his chest, too. So Will Smith should theoretically be able to see in front of and behind Baby Smith.
Right, but then he sees him from a third person point of view at some
How
point.
can he see his face? Which of those
But
cameras is pointed directly at Jaden Smith's face?
And it wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't such a main player in this movie. That
Right.
screen with the camera is basically a main character. And it's so inconsistent and it doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all. So I want to move past this. So Jaden Smith is getting chased by monkeys, and his dad's like, run into the water. So he runs to the water, which stops the apes because apparently apes can't swim. And he keeps running, and his dad's yelling at him for being scared of the giant horde of monkeys that were chasing him. And
Right,
so
because his father is autistic.
right, because he keeps running, and his dad's like, "Oh, you need to perform a check. Something's wrong." And he's got a giant leech on his hand that he takes off, and I think he has an allergic reaction to it. Or
Well, no, I think it's weird.
venom.
Future mutated leech.
Right,
Now it has venom,
it has
or
a
maybe
venom on it.
leeches have venom already. I don't know. I don't know much about leeches.
It's a poison leech. That's all that matters.
Right, and it's so he needs to put like anti-venom into himself. And does he like miss the first time? Because he tries and then it doesn't work.
He reaches to pull it out, but by the time he gets it out, it's like he's going blind because his like the venom is shutting off his senses.
Right. His eyes are like swelling up.
Yeah, he looked like he eated a bees.
The bees. So his dad just says, "I'll just stick it in your chest and then fall to the floor,"
Right.
and it works apparently.
It does.
After that, his dad says he needs to lay there for a minute because the venom that the leech has a paralysis agent, and the antivenom needs to work through it. Which, like, you don't need to tell him that. He's not going to be able to move in the first place if he's got paralysis in there. You're just wasting breath, Will Smith. Is that when he has like the first kind of flashback to? No, that's when Will Smith has a flashback.
Yeah,
to,
Will Smith is like he's putting the blood from the top of his leg to the bottom, and he's seriously considering doing opioids, but then he doesn't.
He doesn't because
That
it
was
would
a
make
really
him sleepy.
weird
Right.
scene, and it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah,
Like,
it didn't really
this whole
tie into anything.
this whole film has ideas and it never fleshes them out. Like him having to bypass blood to his leg so he doesn't get amputated is a cool idea. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it had
Like,
no payoff or anything. Like I guess he didn't lose his leg.
Right, but like most people
But he
would
did.
not know or care.
He did lose his leg at the end of the movie. That's why they had to stand him
I think
up.
it was just still broken because that was
Right,
meant to
it
be
was still like
a
injured.
couple
It
minutes
just hit
after.
But then there's other stuff like the accent, which cool, that's a neat bit of world building. But if you're telling me 1,000 years in the future we're still speaking the same language we are currently speaking, I will not believe you. Like it's one of those things where you can't pick and choose what elements of realism you want from a movie.
Right.
You either have to go all in with it or not at all, which is fine because you're making a sci-fi fantasy movie, Will Smith.
Yeah,
You're
just
trying
don't make it with the pretense of it being realistic.
Right,
I feel the same way about this as I do about parts of Old.
Right.
That, like they tried too hard to make it seem like genuinely real science. Real? When it's just
Yeah,
nonsense
like
science
in
fiction,
Old,
which is
they
fine.
had
I love nonsense science fiction.
right in Old they were like, oh, the rocks make you old. You don't need to tell me that. I'll just believe that the beach makes me old because it's a magic beach. I don't care.
The
Right, you
closest
don't need
thing
to
we
say it-
have to something in After Earth in real life is probably the immortal snail. I would have to say.
That is true. Yeah.
Right.
Who would win, immortal snail or giant praying mantis?
A mortal snail or Walter White?
Can this be the new way the podcast goes? We just discuss what fictional animal would beat another fictional animal.
Yeah, I think we should ditch the whole film show idea.
Absolutely. We just talk about like oh, would that weird saber-toothed tiger from Attack of the Clones beat the saber-toothed tiger that's in this movie?
I don't know. I never watched
So
Attack of the Clones.
each movie, we pick out a new animal from the film.
Would Godzilla beat the Cloverfield monster?
No, it's always
So-
one of the three from Attack of the Clones facing one from the movie we watched. All right, Josh.
So
keep-
next week
Right,
it'll
no.
be Appa. Sorry. Anyway.
Right.
Oh, don't remind me. Josh, keep going. Power
What
through,
else
push
happens in
through,
this
push
movie?
through.
Okay. What happens after that? He comes to a cliff edge. No, he realizes that two of his four oxygen things are broken.
Yeah, his oxygen.
He
vapes
goes in.
got
He goes
broken.
into the cave before the cliff edge.
And yeah, he
Did he? I thought
No,
the cave. Or no,
no,
he
that was
didn't. He didn't
after.
go in the cave. He went he found like a hot spot and then
no,
and
that,
hid
that was all.
underneath.
That was all after because he wasn't in contact with his dad for that bit.
No.
No,
He
he
was
was.
under because his dad. After he was paralyzed, it started. The leaves shriveled up and it started going cold. And he was like, get up, Kitai, you got to get up.
Run.
There's a hot
Run.
spot.
Run.
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 But
Run.
he got up and he went to the hot spot, which was conveniently underneath a giant log, and he like curled up in the fetal position there and slept there for
And
the
he
night.
was able to get there because he is such a fast runner.
Correct.
They make a point of mentioning that.
Oh yeah, he says, why don't you show
He
me
is
that
faster than grown man.
50-mile sprint in 10 minutes, whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right. So he gets there, and then the next morning he lies to his dad about how many oxygen canisters he has left, as if his dad can't just like figure it out on his own from his
As
heartbeat.
if the
and
sentient
lies.
cameras that follow him can't
Right.
see the oxygen things.
Well, no, those couldn't see that because the plot didn't allow it just yet.
He pulls it in front of his face and looks at it. So surely the camera that he has on the front of his chest could he look at it and go, "Oh, you've only got 2 left."
Also,
we'll figure
his
something
heart
out.
rate went up or something, and so Will Smith knew he was lying.
Right.
Right.
So he keeps on moving forward. He gets to a cliff edge, and his dad asks him again to do like a check, and he lies again.
He gives him a wave check.
He gives him a
He's
wave
Matt
check.
Murdock from Daredevil 2003.
Right, and he goes, "Why don't you just show me, huh? Like if you just show me if they're fine." So he shows him, and he just tells him to leave and come back to the ship, and they'll sort someone else out. But Jaden Smith wants to go ghost, so he dives off and wingsuits down. But he doesn't wingsuit down; he just glides because he's a superhero.
After screaming at his father.
Right after he screams
Right.
at his father because he still blames himself for his sister's death. Because his sister locked him up in like a little pod.
Right. When he was like 9.
Yeah, he was a child.
And he assumes
and well,
that
he
his
still is
dad
a child.
also blames him.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, what do you think I should have done?" And his dad just goes, "I don't know. What do you think you should have done?"
Yeah.
And he even
make a
says,
decision for yourself.
like, he blatantly says, like, you did what you thought you should do, and that makes it the right thing. And he, like, basically just tells him, hey, I'm not mad at you. But then Jaden Smith keeps screaming at him.
Right, he's still pissed off, and I'm like, Jaden, no, you're the one in the situation who is causing the issue. So Jaden then decides to jump off and fly, where he gets attacked by a giant like vulture, almost. I think.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be like a vulture.
He blacks out and then wakes up in the vulture's nest.
He wakes
with
up
all,
in the best scene of the movie with the tiny but also giant vulture babies that are nipping at him.
Right.
They're
And
trying
then,
to eat him.
They were trying to eat him.
They are hungry.
Nah, they're just playing. They're like
then-
little puppy dogs.
Coincidentally, at the exact same time he wakes up, 2 saber-toothed tigers decide to try and break into the nest and eat everything.
I think it was more. I think it was quite a few.
Yeah, it was like
it
10.
was like a whole pack.
I just remember 2 because there's the one on top and then
There was
Well, 2 get
there
in.
was Diego. There was
There's
Diego,
Diego and
from
Scar.
Ice Age and Scar from the Lion King.
So he kills them both. This is the point in the movie where the movie just decides that he's Ghost and he's
That
like,
he's just a badass.
he's so cool.
And it's not
then-
like they were building to this and then it happened. Like
It just happens.
they just decided to write in a different character into this movie for this part. Like the second
Right.
half of this movie, he is not the same character from the first half of this movie. He is a new person. It's not even like, oh, he had an arc and got to this point. He is just no longer the same Baby Smith from earlier. He is new Baby Smith.
He just decides that he can do this now.
Right.
But so he kills Scar and he kills Diego from Ice Age, and then he realizes that all the babies are dead anyway. So he keeps moving forward and he keeps going. Is that when he starts getting frozen after that?
No, this is when he goes to the cave.
Well, no, he starts getting frozen, and then the big bird drags him there, doesn't
that?
Right.
So no, that's after he built the boat and.
That's after.
Right? No, that's after. No, don't.
Yeah,
He builds the boat and he
hallucinates his dead sister,
before that, after this, that night he hides out in a cave and he plots out the map of the island.
Right.
It's the Minecraft cave with the lava pool, and he sleeps there. And he takes.
Doesn't look like Minecraft. That's not what Minecraft looks like.
Right. He takes his second to last oxygen, and then goes to sleep next to a little campfire, and then he plots out the map of the island, and then he wakes up the next morning and he leaves and he goes. He builds a boat, and they like meticulously show him building this boat, but he doesn't build a paddle. He just uses a stick, which out of all of the things in this movie, that annoys me the most. Why? You invented an accent for the future, and when he built a boat, he didn't factor in the fact that he needed a paddle, but it really doesn't matter because the stick works just fine. And then he falls asleep on the boat, and he's visited by his sister who says, "Hey, you didn't kill me. You did the right thing," which is something that everyone has told him already, but I guess this time it sticks. And then his boat lands and he gets out, but then it's the temperature starts freezing, and now
the cold is coming. The cold is coming.
Right.
This is a M. Night Shyamalan reference to The Visit, where it is also winter. All his movies are connected, and then he like collapses and accepts his death, and Big Bird from Sesame Street comes and helps him.
And then the big bird comes and tries to eat him, but then the giant praying mantis swoops in and uppercuts the bird, and then the giant praying mantis saves him. Best scene in the movie.
And then his ghost sister drags him to like a
and
campfire.
Then she goes ghost and turns him into going ghost, and then that's a movie. But no, what actually happens?
The big bird like drags him away and then
brings
covers
him
him
to the cave and covers him, and it
it
takes
doesn't bring him to a cave. It's
a hole in the ground
just
with
makes
some leaves on top.
Right, and it just like
makes
holds
it makes like a Minecraft first home hole in the ground.
Yeah, so he's protected from the creepers. Oh man.
And then the bird dies, and he's like, "Hey, thanks, man," and then like kicks its head to make sure it's still alive. Then.
So he sees like a little piece of the ship. Then I swear it said herpes, but it probably didn't.
It probably said like Hermes. It was probably like Hermes. Oh no, do you know what it was? It was probably Hermes because that's the messenger of the gods, and they were delivering a message.
Come on,
wait a minute. This isn't Max Payne.
I think it's at what point does his radio get broken?
I think
that happens when the bird happens.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So his radio is broken
when he's like escaping the bird the first time.
Right. His radio is broken, and he doesn't like have access to talk to his dad anymore, and his dad can't see the camera anymore. So he's using the recon droids to try and figure out where he's at.
And this whole time we're cutting back to Will Smith dying,
doing nothing,
and he's
he's sitting down.
He's literally not saying anything. He's not moving. He's not acting. It's just like
Will Smith filmed his scenes in a week and then called it quits.
Well, he was too busy directing.
Right. Sorry. So true. Director Will Smith.
And that we flash back a lot to the sister Smith, Zoe Kravitz. And like their relationship, and there's some neat little character things with their relationship, I think. It's not all bad.
you can think that, but you would be wrong.
I like the bit with the the candle bit.
That felt like a scene with real characters.
One of the scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
They're the only two.
They felt like real characters at that point. Like
right. They're the only two characters in this movie who
Will Smith and
feel
annoying
like
Jaden Smith.
Yeah.
There were 2 points where Will Smith felt like Will Smith. It was the candle scene where like his Zoe Kravitz calls him over a video call.
And when he said "damn" to his son, I don't remember the context.
His son is walking, like running after the ape thing because he's scared, and he's got the sword out, and he's like, "Put my damn sword away."
Right.
Yeah, right. The scenes with Zoe Kravitz are really the only time in the movie where Will Smith feels like a human, and I like that because he feels like a human.
Right.
Which I guess was maybe intentional because like he was
he's like now detached from humanity or whatever.
Yeah,
and then his daughter died, so he went no feelings.
No, I think it's intentional. I just think it's a bad choice.
Right.
They set it up to where, it's like, oh, Will Smith is such a hardened war hero and he has no emotions and he's traumatized, but then they don't pay it off really. Like they pay it off kind of, but he doesn't really learn a lesson.
Like he just hugs his son. That's it.
He doesn't really change. Like
right.
Yeah.
Now there was going to be a character arc in After Earth too.
Right, I'm sorry.
Right, okay. I just want to get through this movie. I just want to finish this movie. So he finds the beacon. He finds the part of the ship that crashed, and he finds it, but there's no connection because there's electrical interference that just happens to be there.
And it I don't understand that because it made it so that Will Smith could hear him, but not the other way around.
But they were cutting out Daniel.
No, they weren't though.
No, they weren't on our end, but which would have been the way to tell that without just having to say it.
Was hearing him clearly, like
no. Will Smith says that they're cutting out.
But he was responding to the things he said, like he was hearing them perfectly.
Yes, but Jaden Smith says, and Will Smith say several times that they can't hear each other. They can because the movie presents them.
No, Will Smith says that he can hear Jaden, and then Jaden Smith has no indication that he can hear Will Smith whatsoever. He keeps saying stuff that Will then repeats back and says, and there is no reply from Jaden.
But then he also can hear him once he leaves the ship because he says, "Take a knee," and he immediately takes a knee, Kaepernick style.
No, I think that was him like hearing his dad in like memory form because his dad said that earlier.
They just didn't fucking set that up or establish that at all.
Right,
Great.
That's reiterated at the end when he goes inside a cave and gets chased by the Ursa, the alien, or the giant praying mantis, one of the three, or decide which.
This is where the movie starts to fall apart.
And then so he uses the cool like knife thing that we haven't talked about. It's like a little cylinder that's Right, but we haven't talked properly about how it works. It's made up of like little.
Do you know how it works?
Yeah, it's like made up of little black tubes that form a knife.
It's like a lightsaber, but not light because it's not Star Wars.
It's like a prehistoric lightsaber.
Right. And it can either form a knife, a spear, or a sickle. And so
or whatever he formed at the end.
Right. So
I think it can just form whatever.
Work.
Right. Well, at the end, he
they don't really
a giant multi-knife axe thing.
It's whatever the movie needs it to form.
It's called the Deus Ex Machina.
Right. I don't know why I couldn't have formed a friggin' paddle or something for when he was on that boat.
Well, he didn't have it at that point. He had already lost it.
No, he broke it. He broke his dad's.
Oh, right. Yeah, he broke his dad's, then he got a new one.
But so he fights the thing and he tries to crawl out and fight and run away, and he gets pulled on the water, and he remembers when his dad also got like pulled on the water, and he's like, "Hey, when did you first go ghost?" And his dad says that takes 15 hours to tell a story.
He says like 30 different incomplete sentences.
Oh, it was so frustrating.
Don't form a full sentence.
Because at this point we haven't really talked about his fearlessness as being Ghost in the movie. Like they have not established that's what that means, or maybe they did and I just missed it.
I think they did establish.
So how that sentence goes for me is I don't know what going ghost means. And Jaden Smith says, "When did you first go ghost?" And his dad says, "I was running faster than my group," or whatever. And then he talks about getting pulled underwater. And it's like the longest story, and it doesn't. The words are coming out of Will Smith's mouth, and I know what they mean because I see it on the screen. No, we don't see it. I don't know what they mean.
No, they're just explaining. And the way he's telling the story is he's like this. He's like, I was running. The alien was there.
Not only does he speak
alien
so
stabbed me.
painfully slow, but also the story was so boring and it didn't it didn't really do anything.
Here's how he should have told. Here's how he should have told the story. He should have just gone. I was stabbed by an alien and it pulled me on the water. And as my blood floated forward, I realized that it was beautiful, and I learned to not fear.
Yeah, he could have still had that crappy monologue about the blood in his eyes reflecting the light and being beautiful or whatever. Like, you could have still kept that, but just go straight to that.
Just dive right into it and then be like, and I realized that fear is just something we imagine. We make it up from what we believe might be the worst scenario, but in reality, things aren't as bad as they seem.
Well, and what a normal movie would have done is he would have started telling the story, and then it would have cut to a flashback of it actually happening.
Well, it would have been narration over like footage.
You don't even need the narration. In a lot of movies, they just cut to the flashback and that's it.
The flashback, yeah.
But they don't do that. It's just it cuts back and forth from Will Smith sitting in a room and Jaden Smith sitting on a log.
No, not sitting on a log. He's laying. He's just laying down, staring into space because that's all he does in this movie.
I meant under a log. Jeez.
He doesn't. His entire role in this movie is he just stares completely blankly with no expression. So you don't know what he's thinking, and you don't know what he's meant to be thinking because he's both a bad actor and he's suffering from both Will Smith and M. Night Shyamalan's bad direction. I can't wait to not talk about it.
So Jaden Smith is underwater, right? And the thing is attacking him, and he pulls himself out.
Where we were, right?
He doesn't go ghost in the water. Like
no, he gets pulled out to like a rock sort of platform on the edge of the volcano that he's in.
We didn't even establish he was on
there's a volcano.
He went up.
The movie doesn't.
It doesn't matter. They just show it a lot, and you think something's gonna happen. I think I even at one point.
And it's gonna be like whatever.
But like he's gonna have no fear of nature.
There's gonna be like a conflict in the movie or something. But it's just
you could have done the thing where like he has no fear of nature, and once you conquer nature, you can conquer anything else.
No, well, I mean, I think the volcano should have been the ticking clock. It should have been like, oh, he's got to get to.
He's got to get this beacon, otherwise the volcano's going to erupt in 2 days, and his dad's going to die because he can't move.
Right. They're both going to die because the volcano's going to kill them both. But they don't do that.
But the volcano's just there.
That feels like something that was in the script, but cut.
He's laying on the ground, and it's showing a shot that looks exactly like the opening of The Happening 2008 by M. Night Shyamalan, and because there's gray clouds, and that's it.
It's just pictures of gray clouds.
The giant praying mantis that is the Cloverfield and also Quiet Place monsters.
And also a giant.
It crawls out of a hole and it starts walking towards Jaden Smith, and he starts.
It stands up on all fours and it looks directly into the camera. It says my full name and address and a date in the future.
And he says it is after Earth, and then the credits roll, and that's the end of the movie.
God, I wish.
And so Jaden Smith hears his dad in his head teaching him how to go ghost. So
he had an Uncle Ben moment.
He had an Uncle Ben moment, and so the monster just walks over him. And the way it's shot is it keeps cutting back and forth between an outside shot of it walking over Jaden Smith and a POV one of him looking up in the sky. But the POV one, every single time, it has the claw of the foot of the monster
right above his face
right on it. And I was just expecting it to just go right through his head and kill him like that. And that was the end of the movie.
And this whole shot is happening over Will Smith dying.
Right.
But it keeps cutting back to that too. He's bleeding out. His leg graft didn't work. He's dying on the
Will Smith
pilot
fell
ship.
off.
And eventually Jaden Smith is just oh yeah, lol, and kills the monster. He makes a giant axe thing that appears for literally 3 seconds before he stabs the monster, so you don't even see it.
Yeah. And then she does the Tron Legacy and also Star Wars thing with the beacon, and
he shoots it up into the sky.
A beam of light directly into the sky, and then the scene is over. They're no longer on After Earth.
Right. The scene very quickly.
Well, no. Then it shows hazmat dudes saving Will Smith.
The bad guys from E.T.
Right. The bad guys from E.T.
It doesn't show how. I guess you can assume that Jaden Smith was also saved by hazmat dudes. I don't. I don't know. I don't
Yeah, I would
care.
assume so.
Well, I guess like
I
once
don't-
they knew what planet they were at, like they could just very quickly search or something.
Well,
Right,
plus
yeah.
all of the drones and the
Like they had a lot of drones
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
They
But-
probably
so-
got Jaden Smith first and then went to the ship.
Right.
But not that matters at all.
Well, they don't need to show any of that because clearly that doesn't matter. It just cuts to Jaden Smith like trying to find his dad, who's being operated upon, and it says like "Stand me up."
And well, first it shows someone.
man-
I
a man
think
watching.
maybe that was the same, maybe Eastern European guy from earlier that was like a dick to him. Maybe it was just a different looking military guy. But he was like watching the scene from the movie where he kills the.
He was
the giant
literally
praying
watching the
mantis.
movie.
Right. Right. They just straight up put a scene from the movie
And
into the
then-
movie.
And then Will Smith stands up and salutes his son, which parallels an earlier scene where an amputee stands up and salutes Will Smith, and Jaden Smith hugs him and is like, "I want to work for Mom," and then the
And
movie
he says, "Me too," and then the movie ends and it's
It's
over.
over.
Well, no.
I've
Then
read
then the ship goes over the ocean and you see a bunch of
and
whales.
it's
Yeah, right, right.
those whales because this is
Whale-
a movie about Moby
Oh.
Dick or something.
So this is how I realized this is how you fix every M. Night Shyamalan movie. You make one of the main
You
characters.
don't make them.
You make one of the main characters in some way related to Midsight Sedan, and they don't like play into the plot or anything, but they're just off to the side the whole time, and their only response is "Oh damn."
Herman Melville is who wrote Moby Dick. I couldn't remember that earlier.
Isn't that
that's his
the
name?
Oh no, never. I'm throwing the whole joke away. I will say it just so you guys can hear how stupid it was. I was about to say, isn't that the name that they do in Scooby Doo when he gets the phone call? But that was Melvin Doo. I don't know if you guys remember that from the Scooby Doo movie.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, After Earth is just a sequel to Scooby Doo.
He gets
Isn't
the
that the
phone
name
call
of
and it says,
who
"Is
is
there a
approaching?"
Scooby Doo here?" And the guy goes, "I'm Melvin Doo." And that was the scene.
He says, "I'm Melvin Doo."
That was the scene from Scooby Doo the movie. So this movie has a lot of flaws, but I will say
This movie's a lot of nothing.
This
it's-
movie has nothing going for it.
compared to the other two M. Night Shyamalan movies that we have watched for the podcast.
That's because it's not an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's a Will Smith movie.
Right.
Well,
Like,
my point
only-
was
The only part that M. Night
Comparing it to the
Shyamalan
other
has
movies we watched, though, this one was at least not a horrible drag to sit through.
I
Well,
did not. Yeah,
Let Dalton
but
finish.
please. So what I was going to say is, compared to the other two, which were insultingly stupid, this
Right.
one is just boring. It's not even like that. It's dumb, but it's super pretentious, and it's boring. Nothing happens in this movie, and it's 150. It's an hour and 50 minutes of nothing. Which I don't know if that's better than insultingly stupid. I definitely preferred watching this one. I had more fun watching this
Well,
than
we-
the
we-
other
we-
two.
we took a look when we were watching the movie, and an hour had passed by, and it hadn't felt like an hour. So that's usually a
Right.
solid sign.
Right. Usually, when we're like 30 minutes into an M. Night movie, it feels like it's been 2 hours. So
Right. It's this
I will
movie
say-
suffers from, it has a really bad lead. It is really poorly written. It's very pretentious. It's got like everything working against it, right? And somehow it was still better than the other two Shyamalan movies we watched.
I will say.
Oh, hold
the
on!
one-
Don't discredit Masterpiece Old with mid-sized.
I will.
Sedan.
I will. I will.
I
discredit
will.
that.
This
I will.
movie is better than Old.
Yes.
No.
Outside of the scenes with Midsize Sedan and that one cool cave scene where the lady's bones break.
No,
yeah.
sweet.
Well,
I hate you.
the thing with this movie is the one thing that M. Night Shyamalan was in charge of, like the visuals, still sucked. So I said
No, the
this to Dalton,
visuals were fine. The special effects
they
sucked.
But no, but even like the
Nah,
bottom-
man. What
A lot
about
of
that
the-
door
A lot of the
scene?
camera angles were really weird.
No,
too.
but I was gonna say, like even the blocking in the camera angles were whack. Like there's one shot of Faye, Will Smith's wife, where like what you should have done is he decided to do like a wide shot that was also fisheyed, and it didn't make any sense. It didn't look any good. So I don't know why he did it, and I don't understand it. And I said this to Dalton before you guys had hopped and before we started watching the movie. The last like 3 weeks have just made me realize, M. Night Shyamalan wasn't someone who made a couple good movies, and he's not been great since then. I think he's just an awful filmmaker who got lucky twice.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe 3 times if you include Split.
And you don't.
I would not.
If you liked Unbreakable, if you liked Unbreakable and Split, then you gotta finish it.
Finish it.
You don't. You don't have to.
It's just nothing happens. This movie, you watch this movie and you want to walk away from a movie feeling something.
Well,
and you want to walk away from a
feeling
movie
satisfied.
Well, it's you want to feel something, anything really. Like you want to feel maybe an emotional pull, especially with something that is supposed to have a message, like this movie does. Or you want to walk away feeling like you want to be a better person, or maybe you want to walk away happy or laughing. You want to walk away with something.
What is this movie supposed to be?
It was environmentalism, the same as The Happening.
Right, maybe when Will Smith was making this, we know that he made it so that he could push his son to be as big a star as he was.
It's nepotism, the movie.
Like it was nepotism, the movie. But what if it was also like, he was making it and he told Jaden, he said, "I'm going to make this movie for you. You're going to be the star. Your career's going to blow up after this." And his son, who is
He
just
said,
weird,
"Can we just like talk about like the political and economic stuff?"
and then Will Smith was like, "I guess
we can put that in the movie. Yeah, we'll make it about like whaling or something.
You don't care about me making you the star and thing like that. Dad, I just want to talk about the environmental.
We'll make it about the whales.
Can we make it about the whales? Can we put some animals in there?
What if there was a Moby Dick
was-
subplot?
Throughout this movie, Jaden Smith does not look like he wants to be in the movie.
Right.
It also, and I didn't think about this before now, I'm on IMDb and I'm looking at the goof section, and it says, Cypher warns his son about Earth, quote, "Everything on this planet has evolved to kill humans. Except that, in this movie, humans have abandoned Earth 1,000 years before, so it makes absolutely no sense that any predator would evolve to hunt a prey that has been absent from its ecosystem for a whole millennium. That's exactly the opposite of how evolution works. And that is the main thrust of this movie."
Well, they don't ever introduce where the aliens come from. They just say they were genetically engineered to hunt humans or something like that.
Which also doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
right.
Because they were aliens on a planet
that implies that there was a bigger
force.
force. That implies that there was something else that was making these aliens to kill humans.
Nah, that would have been in.
That would have been
After
interesting.
Earth
Yeah,
2.
that was going to be an After Earth. It was actually going to be in Before Earth, the prequel to After Earth.
The sequel
What's
to this
the-
is After
what is-
Earther.
I was gonna say, what is the sequel to this movie called? Just Earth?
After Earth again.
After Earth, but more after.
more After Earth.
No, I got
I
it.
do want to
It's
say, I did want to
I
talk
got
about,
it. It's
so
After Earth.
the original concept for this movie was a dad and a son go on a camping trip, and then the car that they're in goes off road, and the son has to make his way through the forest to find help for the father. And then they decided, oh, why don't we do this into a sci-fi epic? When the original idea for this would have been so much more cool.
Absolutely not. I hear that and I think, oh no, that sounds like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. The only thing
but
that
M.
this
Night
had,
Shyamalan horror is more entertaining than M. Night Shyamalan.
the
I'm
only
involved in
thing that
that.
this
I'm involved.
movie
I
has
do
going
agree
for
with
it is the cool sci-fi elements. If you strip this movie of that, it has nothing.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying that.
I
I'm
agree
saying
about the movie we got, but I think
right conceptually. I mean,
right.
But if it's still the same, where it's Will Smith and Jaden Smith, right? If it's the same movie and you strip the sci-fi from that, you lose the accent, and that's a plus. But other than that, the cool stuff from this movie is just gone.
I think if they were playing normal people, they wouldn't be so emotionless and terrible.
But they would have some actual stuff going on. But the plus also with this original concept, I think you get rid of M. Night Shyamalan and you just get another director who knows what they're doing with it.
But that concept sounds like an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Well, M. Night Shyamalan is the best, clearly, because we watched 4 of his films in a row.
M. Night Shyamalan is a genius. He has to be, because
All right,
otherwise,
all right.
I have dedicated 3 to 4 to 5 weeks of my life watching M. Night Shyamalan movies, and I'm not going to go to waste.
We gotta wrap this up.
Total, it will have been 6 by the time we're all said and done.
Ran wrap.
All right. Don't watch this movie. It's not worth it. Not because it's bad, but because it's pointless. I
want to sorry on to interrupt, but I just want to say this movie won 3 Golden Razzies.
Wow.
Well, this movie sucks. So
For worst actor, worst supporting actor, and worst acting combo.
How many Razzies has M. Night won? Like, how have his movies won? I know. Avatar: Last Airbender. Next week.
I'll take a look at
one of those.
So back to the wrap up. Don't watch this movie, not because it's bad, but because you literally will get nothing from it. It will advance you none.
On YouTube, the scene of the giant praying mantis in this movie. It may not show up. You may have to instead search Star Wars: Attack of the Clones giant praying mantis. But that's just a little goof. YouTube's kind of messed up. Trust me, it's from this movie.
It's a whole copyright thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We literally didn't even talk about the fact that Jaden Smith is playing Hayden Christensen from Attack of the Clones. But yeah, don't watch this movie because it's not worth the time that you will spend watching it.
It is not worth your thoughts. But to answer your question, Dan, M. Night has been nominated for 10 Razzies, and he has won 4 of them. He won Worst Director and Worst Actor, Worst Supporting Actor for Lady in the Water, and Worst Director and Worst Screenplay for The Last Airbender, which we are watching next week.
Yeah, I can wait for that.
I can also wait. Let's watch Garfield: Tale of Two Kitties.
We'll get there. We'll get there
next time. Next time, baby.
You're getting ahead of yourself, Bobbin. Oh, he was also nominated for Worst Director and Worst Screenplay for both this and The Happening.
Nice.
Deserved.
Not happening. Sweep.
Man.
All right. Final thoughts. I gave mine.
I would rather than watch this movie, I would rather talk to Jaden Smith for 5 hours about the political and economic state of the world right now.
All right, Josh, you go.
Instead of watching.
Hey, Josh, just really quickly, I want to say something.
Whoa,
no, my bad. Go ahead. My bad. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Josh. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What happened to the funny thing we were gonna do to rank these movies?
I don't care. We just need to wrap this up.
Would you rather watch this movie or
be
something?
tortured?
Yeah, or talk to Jaden Smith about the political and economic.
No, I would.
How long into this movie would you give up your friends and family and country?
I would probably do it about. This movie.
I would just like to say I think pretty quickly. I would give them up pretty quickly. I think. Sorry, Josh. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
I could hold out until the.
Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you.
I think I could hold out.
I think personally.
Hey guys.
Can we just talk about the political and economic state of the world right now?
I like the difference. I like the difference between recording in the mornings when we're all too tired to care about the movies to recording right after we're all we're too high, basically.
Yeah.
Josh, wrap up. Give your final thoughts.
Talk about this movie.
I would rather be.
Josh, would you please just give your final thoughts on this movie?
Shut up.
I would rather be trapped on a planet with Jaden Smith than watch this movie again.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, Bobbin,
I can see that.
You?
This movie was a drag. I don't think you should watch it. I think you should watch it for the reason. There's no reason. Never mind.
Don't watch this movie.
This movie was one of the movies I watched.
True.
Of all time.
This was one of the movies ever made.
This movie was easier to sit through.
Dawn, just 1 second before we start talking again. I just wanted
Hey guys.
I just want to talk to you about the political.
Oh, real quick. I completely forgot to mention there was a giant praying. I don't know if you guys caught it, but there was actually a giant praying mantis in this movie.
God, this is the worst. This is the most chaotic thing I've ever heard.
I think we should do this for every episode.
This is insane. I've
case
been
people-
notifying you.
In case the few of you who watch this are wondering, this is what most of our Discord calls when we're just playing games or chilling or watching movies alike.
It's so much worse though. This is us trying to put on a somewhat professional front because we're recording. Just
All right. We're out of here.
All right, Dalton. Wrap.
I can't take this anymore. Just end it.
This was more interesting to me than Old and The Visit. So
This is definitely the best M. Night Shyamalan movie we have watched for the podcast.
Right, because it's the one that has had
Maybe not
the least M.
the
Night
technically
Shyamalan in
best, but the one I enjoyed the most.
it. Right. No, I'd agree. It's the one that has had the least M. Night Shyamalan
Right.
in it.
it was the easiest one to sit through.
We didn't even talk. It didn't even have a Shyamalan twist. We didn't even talk about that.
No.
Who knows what we're going to put for the title of this movie? Presumably the people
Yeah, man,
who are
who
listening
knows?
do.
Oh, the twist is
But-
that his sister was dead.
No, the twist is that
The twist is that there actually wasn't a giant praying
Yeah,
mantis, and
the twist is that there is no twist.
gaslighting you. Right.
All right. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, you can also listen on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, you can listen wherever you already listen to podcasts.
Oh, real quick, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but can we just talk about the political and economic state?
Daniel, I'm gonna come to your house and I'm gonna beat you up.
If you can leave a rate or a review for the podcast, that's great. It helps to push this out to other people who are listening, or if you're on YouTube, do whatever the YouTube things are that people have told you to do in other videos. Next week, we will be watching The Last Airbender, so stay tuned for that, and we will see you on the very next episode of Semi Pro.